Morning campers! So today, as you'll notice, slight little change of scenery. I thought with the nice weather that we've had over the past couple of weeks, I'd do a little bit of filming outside for once. I have the distinct feeling that this couple of weeks of nice weather will be all the British actually get for summer. It's usually how it goes. Although, salsa will be, I'll say that, and all of a sudden we'll have like a month-long heat wave again, like we did a couple of years ago. But anyway, today I'm also going to be doing something a little bit different. Usually I do things like hauls and stuff about tea and stuff about what I've been doing, and I figured that this time I will probably do something a little bit different. Today I'm going to put what I learned in my degree to actual practice, and we're going to do something a little bit forensic-y and a little bit different. Today we're going to do easy forensics, and this is chromatography. So all you need for this little experiment are things that you probably have lying around at home already. So obviously I have a little box filled with a little bit of water. You can use like cups, and literally anything that holds water. I mean, even a little glass like this would do. You just need to fill it up about an inch or so full of water. And then I have some coffee filters. If you don't have coffee filters lying around at home, you can use kitchen cloth or toilet roll. You could also just use bulk standard paper if you've got some of that. These ones are the unbleached, so they are quite brown. They are unfortunately brown. It doesn't really matter though, because it does the same thing anyway. It's just the colours don't quite show up as brightly as if they're on white. But don't panic if you haven't got white, it will still work. And some pens. I mean, surely everyone's got pens lying around, right? I mean, I don't know how old some of these felt pens are. I've had them for ages. But literally any kind of pen you can use for this. Let's make it into a little bit of an experiment. I've also got some makeup pens, some eyeliners and some lip stains, and I figured, well, I've never actually done it with this before, so we'll try it and see if it works. Why not? What you need to do is take your coffee filter or your filter paper, and you basically or any kind of paper, and just cut it into little strips like this. So nice, simple, easy. Obviously, if you've got small children, make sure you supervise them with using sharp scissors and things. The last thing you want is them chopping their own fingers off and having to run up to any. But roughly about finger width. Obviously, mine are a bit thicker because mine are a bit of an odd shape. But there we go. Don't worry if they're not completely straight. Don't worry if they're all odd different lengths. It doesn't really matter. For this to work, what you need to do is grab a pen. I shall start with this one, and you need to put a dot about a couple of centimetres up from the end of the filter paper. You can make these dots as big or as small as you like, but bigger dots I find tend to work better for this. So obviously you can see where I've marked it, and if you are using things like filter paper or kitchen cloth, make sure you put something underneath where either you or your kids are going to be drawing, because the thinness means that the pen might go through, so don't panic. And then what you need to do is very carefully place it in the water so that the end of the filter paper, so like this little end here, sits just in the water. You don't need to fully soak it or anything, but you do need to make sure the end sits in the water. Like that, look. Usually I bend mine over at the top. Notice how the water's travelling up? Hello Jasper, the cat's back again. Notice how the water's travelling up the filter paper, and you'll notice that it's starting to run a little bit. Don't panic, it's supposed to do this. You might be able to see some other colours coming out. So as you can see, as it's travelling up, the ink is dissolving into the water and it's being moved upwards. So I'm going to leave that for a moment while it finishes going, because obviously the water will travel right up to the end of the paper. Take it a few minutes to go, and I'm going to do some others. What other colours have I got? Purple. Yeah, buns come off all the... Purple one. Right here. This is Jasper, causing chaos. Come on, you. Where are you going? Careful. He's kind of jumped off the table. You don't think much of this, do you? Obviously, be careful if you've got like pets and sharp things as well. Pets like to get in the way of everything. They're almost at the end. Some of these, excellent. Right, so I've done that one. When you finish drawing all your little dots on the pens, what you need to do is wait for the water to travel right up to the end. There'll come a point where it will basically just stop travelling up. Obviously, watch out for things like this, where they flip slightly into the water. That sometimes happens. Just if you can, try and stop it from falling completely into the water. Otherwise, you'll have to do that one again. The one you've already done's kind of been wrecked a little bit. And so once they've done and they've stopped travelling up, carefully peel them off and leave them to dry for a few minutes. I like to make sure that mine are dry because it basically stops any pigments or anything from running before you look at it. Come on, howdy howdy. I'm going to get on with my next batch. And I've got a couple of highlighters here. That wasn't supposed to happen. So I've got two pink ones, but these are different brands, and I've got a yellow one. I have no idea if any of these are going to work because they're quite old, but we'll give it a go and we'll see anyway. Nice big explosion on yellow. Nice big explosion on pink. And a nice big splodge of the other neon pink, which I think are pretty much the same colour, but we'll see. We'll see if the different brands are affected. So pop the other one in the middle. One on one side and one on the other. Just give them a minute. Oh, that's another bright one. That's the same brand as these, so if anyone's interested, these pens were from Wilco's. I think they're £1 for the whole rainbow spectrum of colours. Unfortunately, I've lost my red one, hence why it's not in this video. Yes, accidents like that, but I think that one's carried up as well as it can do. So my eyeliners are, they're all black eyeliners, they're all slightly different. So I have the Rimmel Wonder Wing one, I have an Avon Mark Mega Effects liquid liner, and big dot eyeliner from Avon Mark. So we'll see how these get on. Just drop that those out because they're now done. Where's the dot one? There we go, then dot one last of all. And then I have two Avon lip stains. This is the Avon Ultra Colour Lip Tint Pen in Strawberry. And I have the Avon Mark 2-in-1 Lip Tattoo Pen in Make Me Up. Oh, look at that, just enough. Excellent. Both sides of this, obviously it's got a fill side and a line side, so I'm going to use both of them. So from these ones that were from the felt pens, this one was the black pen, and this one was this pen. You notice that all of a sudden, where I placed the dot, it's gone blue, travelled up, and then it's gone black, and then right at the end it's gone red. This is because the colour's been made using different pigments, and the different pigments they're all soluble in water, so they've travelled up. But different pigments have different lifespans. See, this one is quite similar again. This one was the brown pen. As you can see, there's like actually no brown pigment on it at all. It's just been made with blue and then red pigments. A little bit of green there on the little bit of overlap. And then some are a little bit more typical. So this one was the light green pen, and as you can see, let's hold this a bit further up so you can see, we go from blue into green into yellow, which is kind of what you'd expect because obviously green is a mixture of yellow and blue pigments. And again, the same with the purple colour. It starts out purple and then fades into blue. Obviously the red pigments in this obviously haven't shown through on here, but obviously you expect a little bit of blue to be added in with that. And then you'll also notice that not all of them have extra coloured pigments added. So for example, this one was the yellow, but as you can see, it's sort of travelled up. I mean, the entire pigment's travelled up to the top, and that's where it's just stayed. And then again, this one for the light blue, it's literally just stayed light blue all the way from the dot at the bottom all the way up to the toe. And the same with the orange. Now, as for the highlighters, these ones are done pretty much exactly the same, so it's just the ink's become soluble in water and it's just travelled up. And the same with the yellow. This indicates that there's only one type of pigment in there. Then, as you can see, hit them out very, very carefully. The eyeliners, the black eyeliners, are basically all one pigment. They're not separated out as they are in the coloured pens. The same with this one. Whoops. And the same with this one. Then as for the lip stains, this one, which was the strawberry coloured lip stain, this one has some orange and yellow pigments in. Can you see? Just about be able to see on here where they've travelled up and it's gone orange and a little bit yellow, rather than staying pure pink like it has at the bottom. Whereas the coloured tint for the Make Me Up coloured eyeliner, this one was done using the fill shade, so this end, which is the thicker end. This one has sort of just not had a massive amount of change, but there are little dots of orange in it. You can see towards the end little dots of orangey bits, and obviously it's dissolved into the water and travelled up. Then this side was from the liner for the lip line. And you can see that even though they're exactly the same colour and use a similar formula, this one has dissolved less into the water than this one, and this one seems to have retained a bit more of its coloured pigment with less orange that's sort of come out of it than this one has. So in forensic science, this technique is most commonly used to identify possible types of pens which have been used to write certain letters. So for example, a letter may be evidence in a murder case, and they may want to know whether the person whose name is signed at the bottom has actually written this letter. So as well as using handwriting analysis techniques, they'll also analyse the pens used to see if it's a match for ones that the person who's meant to have written it actually uses. Because for example, obviously with the black, if I'd have written a letter in this eyeliner pen, it would have looked completely different under the chromatography than if I've written it in this liner, even though they're exactly the same colour. So it may look the same, but it may not be the same under the surface. And obviously, if I own one of these, but not one of these, then perhaps it wasn't really me who wrote this letter. Perhaps. Maybe. Who knows? Here are some of the chromatography papers that I did earlier, in true Blue Peter style there. So this one came from the brown pen. This one isn't quite sat properly. Was the dark green, this one was the orange, this one was purple, this one was black, and then this one was brown. So these were all done but with felt pens. None of them here are from the makeup. They look a little bit different now they've dried out. Obviously as the paper's dried out and the solvent's evaporated off it, so the solvent in this case being the water, what's happened is the colours have become stuck down a little bit more permanently on the paper. This makes them look a bit brighter, and obviously now they're not moving around and the paper turns slightly translucent as well when wet. Obviously you can see that the two ones with the browns on them look quite different. Now if I move these ones out of the way, what you'll notice here is that these two that were made using the same brown pen look quite different. The colours on this one haven't quite spread out as much as on this one. Sometimes that happens. You obviously get different results with the same pens, using different kinds of solvents, using different kinds of paper. There could be different reasons for it, or it could just be I didn't quite put enough ink on with this one. The reason this happens is because chromatography is basically separation of a mixture, in this case the ink, into its basic components. And you have inks that are made up of lots and lots of different pigments, and that each pigment moves at different speeds, which causes them to separate. To the mobile phase, which is the moving pigments itself, and then you have the stationary phase, which is the filter paper or the regular paper or whatever kind of paper it is you're using. This one is the best example of one that I've got that I've done myself. You can sort of see here where I put the dot of ink, which was right at the bottom here, and then how it spread up through the paper. So basically, paper chromatography is the separation of a mixture back into its base components again. So in this case, the mixture would be the ink itself. Obviously, different inks contain different pigments in order to give them the same colour. In this case, the black ink appears to have been made up of blue, black and red pigments. Within this experiment, there's the stationary phase, which is the filter paper itself that you're drawing on, and the mobile phase, which in this case is the ink and the pigments that are moving up through the paper. Some of the pigments are a lot more mobile than others, and this is due to a process called adsorption. So for this to happen, the pigments in the ink change from a solid to a liquid temporarily, and this happens because they dissolve into the water that's moving up through the paper. And the longer a liquid spends in the solid phase, so when it's being carried by the water but hasn't yet dissolved into the water itself, the higher up the paper it travels. So in this case, the blue pigment dissolved into the water first, whereas the black and the red pigments were carried further up, still in solid phase. And eventually, the black decided to dissolve into the water, which creates this, and finally the red did the same. You can see here with all of these, I've used the same pen, but I've put on there, on the paper itself, different sized dots, different amounts of ink, saturated the ink slightly different. And you can see that the best ones have larger ink blots like this one, and more ink saturation, so like this one here. You'll notice here that with the two eyeliners that I used, you'll notice that this one didn't really seem to dissolve into the water properly, whereas this one kind of did, but kind of went all blotchy. Perhaps these ones would be better in another solvent that's not water, so you can use types of alcohol to do it. You can use various other kinds of solvents, or even different kinds of paper. So obviously these are filter paper, so your results, if you've done them on kitchen cloth or standard paper, will probably be quite different to these that I've gained on the filter paper. They might even be different on the bleach filter papers, because they obviously, the bleach filter papers carry extra chemicals in them which may affect this process. But these ones may look slightly different. There may be more pigments that separate out, because the ink may carry pigments which aren't dissolvable in water but are in alcohol. So these three here were from the lip stains. So this one was the lip fill, this one was the liner, and this one was the Avon strawberry coloured one that I had. You can see that the colour's quite faded on this one, but quite bold on this one in some places. And then let's move these two out of the way. And then this one, you can kind of see what I was talking about. You probably couldn't quite see it in the last video, but now that it's dry, you can see where the little tiny little bit of orange is at the top. Let's spread that out again. You can see quite clearly that there are some more orangey pigments rather than the pinky purpley kind of pigments, which you might not have noticed when the paper was wet. So it's good to let them dry first, so then you'll be able to see. So that's all for today. I know this is a little bit different to the sort of things that I usually do on my channel. If you like this video, please give it a like. Please also drop a couple of comments below. Don't forget to say hi. Let me know if you tried this out at home and the kind of results that you had. You can always tweet them to me or send them to me on Instagram. You'll find my handles on the end card at the end of this video if you'd like to do that, because I'd absolutely love to see them. I mean, different pens do lots of different things, so I'm always interested. I did this with my brownies a few years ago, and they have boxes full of pens and they're all different colours and all different makes, and the results were absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's great, it's fantastic, it's a cheap experiment to do. If you'd like to do it, please have a go at it. Please feel free to have a go. And also let me know how you get on with substitutes for paper. Obviously, I've said before, you can do it with kitchen roll or toilet paper, or even with just bog standard paper. Let me know if you find any differences with the different papers, if you decide to do multiple papers or multiple types of pens. Now, I hope you all stay safe during this crisis. Hopefully soon this lockdown will be lifted. So we'll see you all soon. Bye. For those of you who are wondering about our little gate crasher, this is him hiding underneath the table. Jasper! You sit over there now, look. Jasper! So I'm just editing and somebody else has turned up. Say hello, Sparky. Hi. Oddly enough, in the video I just got to the outtakey bit where Jasper appears and starts to make a little bit of a nuisance of himself. Hi, Sparks. Hello. Oh. Hello, my lad. What are you up to today? You been up to much? Oh, look at you. Honestly, it's working from home, lark. At least I've got company. Haven't I? Yeah? Company that needs to be fed with dreamies.